We're now entering the final week of NFL preseason and fantasy football drafts are starting to go down. In this video, we're going to be looking at the optimal draft strategy if you hold a draft position between picks 9 and 12. For those picking between 1 and 8, make sure to check out the videos I did on those. They're going to be linked in the description below. But for this video, we're going to be going through a 12-team mock draft on Sleeper. And we're going to analyze each round so that you can win your leagues this year. This draft's going to be approached as a PPR league with a standard roster structure, and I'm going to be picking from pick 11. So we're going to jump right in here. And there has been years where picking at the end of the first round puts you at a kind of a disadvantage, but this is not one of those years. Honestly, after doing a bunch of drafts and mock drafts, I think you can build a really solid team picking between 9 and 12 this year. So when you're here, you're going to have a couple options. You're going to have some really high upside running backs and really high upside wide receivers. But over the past few years in fantasy football, I've found the most success when I've targeted receivers heavily in the first 5 rounds. And considering you could get a top 5, potentially a top 5 receiver in this stage of your draft in the first round, I personally would be going receiver. Guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Nabers, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, BTJ, those are all fine options here. And I would not be upset if you did go a player like Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, or Christian McCaffrey here. But just the way I approach fantasy drafts, I'd be going receiver. So looking at who's currently on the board, there is some injury concerns with Malik Nabers currently, but I don't think they're going to linger and be an issue. So with just putting the injuries aside and not overthinking this one, I will go Malik Nabers here at 11. And then you have a couple options again when you come back here in the second round. In my opinion, there's only 2 ways to go about this. If you go receiver in the first round, you can double up and go another receiver. I promise you guys, you can go 2 receivers. You can never have too many receivers. And the way in this today's pass-heavy NFL, that is how you win fantasy championships, especially in PPR leagues. Your other option is you could stack your receiver with a running back, or if you went running back in the first round, go receiver here. The one thing I wouldn't do is go 2 running backs to start your draft. There are going to be really quality running backs in the 4th round, in the 6th round, and I'm going to prove it to you guys as we go through this mock draft. But considering we went receiver here, looking at the board right now, if I had gone receiver, guys I'd look at to double up on are like BTJ, Drake London, AJ Brown. And then if I had gone, if I'm trying to go running back here, guys I'd take or target are Achane, Josh Jacobs, and Bucky Irving. I think Bucky Irving's going to be a beast this season. I'd personally go Achane, then Bucky, then Josh Jacobs. If I'm going receiver out of these available guys, I'm going BTJ, Drake London, AJ Brown. So we went Malik Nabers in the first round, like I said, and I'm going to go BTJ here just to kind of prove that you can start with 2 receivers and be okay. And if I hadn't gone BTJ here, I would have honestly gone Achane or Bucky Irving. And then we're going to come back here to the 3rd round. So in the first 5 rounds of fantasy drafts, no matter where you're picking, you really want to target starting with 3 high upside receivers and 2 solid running backs. And honestly, you could even go 4 high upside receivers and 1 running back if you really want to go hero running back to start. What I would not do is go quarterback or tight end in the first 5 rounds, unless someone like Brock Bowers falls to you late in the 2nd round or start of the 3rd round. If Trey McBride falls to the middle of the 3rd round, if Lamar Jackson's up there at the end of the 3rd, start of the 4th, I'm just not a big believer in taking quarterbacks and tight ends early. That's never won me fantasy championships in non-super flex leagues. I've taken late quarterbacks and tight ends and have found major success in fantasy. So you want to really secure your high upside wide receivers and running backs. So now, guys, look right here. I mean, we didn't go running back in the first 2 rounds, and the way this draft fell, we do have James Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Omarion Hampton available to us. All really high upside guys. I'm going to go James Cook here. And then we come back here in the 4th round, and again, we could have gone receiver again, and we'd have Alvin Kamara and Hampton available. So looking at the receivers that are left on the board, there are some guys I would take here. But guys like JS said, Marvin Harrison, T. Higgins are not available to us at this stage of the draft. So I'm not super against taking another running back here. And I'm going to go Omarion Hampton for that rookie upside. I mean, starting to look like he is going to be the RB1 in LA to start the year with Najee Harris hurt. So looking at what some of the other teams did between 9 and 12, again, you got some guys who did take quarterbacks and tight ends here, but like I said, that's not how I approach fantasy, and I found success not approaching fantasy in that way. So again, you want to start your drafts, your first 5 rounds, ideally with at least 3 receivers and 1 or 2 running backs. So now looking at what we have here, you have TJ Hawkinson. That's the top player at the board in sleeper here. But we're not going to go tight end here. I would have loved to have DJ Moore or Tetairoa McMillan fall to us at 11. But if you're picking between 9 and 12 and you see Tetairoa McMillan, DJ Moore, or George Pickens, I'm all over those 3 players as your second or better as your third receiver, like as flex option. But I mean, we don't have that freedom here with those 3 players. So looking at what we got, so I'm not going to go running back again for at least a round or 2. I'm going to try to continue to add to wide receiver here. So JMO is not a bad option as a high upside kind of down the field guy who can go out there and get some points. I think some of these other receivers on the board would be kind of a stretch here. So we're going to go JMO here and add who I think would be a pretty solid flex and a guy to fill in if Neighbors or BTJ were out. And then looking at the board, we're not going to go tight end here, even though Hawkinson is kind of tempting here. I mean, he hasn't been healthy, and again, we're not going to be targeting tight ends and quarterbacks early. So looking at what we got here, we can target a high upside running back or receiver, and just guys who you're probably going to see. If TreVeyon Henderson is there for you in the second round, TreVeyon Henderson is a player I would definitely target. Some other guys in this range that are realistic targets. RJ Harvey, I was really high on entering the season and this offseason, but lately I'm not sure if I believe in him as one of your starting 2 running backs. I don't hit him as a bench option because the upside is unbelievable with him on that Broncos offense that has found a lot of success behind that O-line. Joe Mixon we're not touching. Pacheco's a super confusing player for me. He is going to be available for most people at this range. And then, honestly, I think we can go running back here between these 2 players and Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift. They're not the sexiest picks in fantasy right now, but Aaron Jones is on a really solid Vikings offense where he's going to have scoring opportunities even at the age of 30. I mean, he had a pretty good RB2 season last year. And then DeAndre Swift, you're gunning for the upside on a Ben Johnson offense. So I'm going to go Aaron Jones here. Get us some more, a fallback option in case Amari Hampton isn't all that to start the year. So to start this draft, I mean, we have 3 running backs and 3 receivers, and I'd argue we have 2 receivers who have top 5 upside, and we have 2 running backs who have top 12 upside. So we have a really good start to this draft so far. And again, between 9 and 12, your draft is not going to go the way sleeper mock drafts go. People who have more ball knowledge are going to jump for guys, and people who just kind of don't know what they're doing are going to make some crazy picks. But this gives you a good idea of guys you can expect to be there. I say you're drafting 14 players, probably 8 to 10 of those guys in your mock draft you can expect to be there. So now looking what we have here in the 7th round. So this is when I feel comfortable you can start looking at exploring options like tight end and quarterback. And considering we have 3 receivers and 3 running backs, we can start exploring those options. So just looking at who we have on the board to start, we got some solid tight ends in Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Tyler Warren. And I would honestly like to secure a quarterback here, but we can also go ahead and secure a tight end. So I'm just doing this on the fly, so apologize if I'm thinking out loud. But looking at tight ends here, I'm pretty high on Evan Ingram this year. I think he's going to be a PPR monster in Denver. And Njoku's always been a solid tight end, and Tyler Warren has some high upside there. But let's go with Evan Ingram here. A tight end I've been raving about this offseason. I'm going to stick true to my word. And then honestly, we can wait on quarterback because there are some really solid quarterbacks like Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. They can get in the 9th and 10th rounds and even later in drafts this year. But I'm going to go, again, for wide receiver upside because that is what wins championships. And we're going to go on a guy who I'm really high on this year. That's Ricky Pearsall. Guys, Ricky Pearsall is currently the Niners wide receiver 1 with Ayuk still going to be out for a couple months and Debo's gone and Juwan Jennings has a contract holdout going on for a new extension. So I'm pretty high on Ricky Pearsall. He was heating up at the end of last year. He looked great in the preseason. And just looking at some of the other guys that were taken here, I mean, Jacoby Myers is a safe pick in PPR. I would stay away from guys like Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuels, Cooper Kupp. If you need a running back, Tyron Tracy is a great pick here. Caleb Johnson, if you need a 3rd running back, maybe even a 2nd running back, at this stage of drafts in the 7th round, I am very high on Caleb Johnson. He may not be that guy week 1, but I think by like week 6 or week 7, he will be at least an RB2 in fantasy. Brian Robinson, I'm not touching anymore. He's potentially getting traded or cut. So that upside he had of being in a Commander's offense where he's going to see a lot of touches and a lot of scoring opportunities is gone. Javonte Williams is not a bad option here. It's starting to look like with Jaden Blue kind of out with injury right now that he will start the year as the RB1 in Dallas. And running backs in Dallas tend to do pretty well. Looking at some other guys, I mean, Josh Downs isn't a bad pick here as your third or fourth receiver. Jaden Reed's got some upside. If Matthew Golden reaches out here, that he's got some upside. All right, so but looking at what we got now, so looking at our roster, we got some solid high upside receivers, which you can, again, never have enough of. We got 3 running backs. We got 3 running backs 3 running backs we can roll with. So now we're just going to be looking at just best available. The only position left we really need to fill is quarterback, and looking at the quarterbacks on the board. We can continue to wait for someone like Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, but if you don't want to take that risk, Brock Purdy is a very good pick here. The Niners are expected to bounce back big time this year, and I try to look for stacks in fantasy. I don't force it. You have a stack here with Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy. Pearsall is not likely going to be our wide receiver 1, so it's not that meaningful of a stack. But when you can get stacks with guys who are going to be in your lineup, it is nice to do that, especially on an offense like San Francisco, where we can expect a lot of scoring this year. And if we hadn't gone tight end, again, I don't mind waiting on tight end. So if you need a tight end in this stage of drafts at this area, Tucker Kraft is a phenomenal option here. He was a top 12 fantasy tight end last year. I don't see that changing this year with a healthy Jordan Love. And you can also gun for the upside here with Colston Loveland. And if you're drafting a sleeper, you're going to start to notice that you see defenses and kickers at this stage of drafts. Bro, we are not touching defenses or kickers till the last 2 rounds of drafts. And even then, I wouldn't even hate if you don't draft a defense or a kicker and wait till before week 1 and pick up whoever. That is drafting a defense and a kicker before the last 2 rounds of your drafts is the biggest waste of a pick you can make in fantasy football. And that's just a fact. I don't care if you're the best defense, the best kicker in the league. It's not going to win you your league. So once you get to this stage of drafts, you want to gun for upside players at every other position. That can be even quarterback and tight end, but you don't want to be wasting these picks on mean picks or just picking whatever is the first player on the board. This is when your research and your ball knowledge really come in handy. And lucky for you guys, my fantasy football draft guide is now available to the public. This guy's going to have all my rankings, notes, projections, and so much more, including all those sleepers in these late rounds I've been talking about. So let me do the work for you and provide you with the players you should be betting the house on and guys that we should not be drafting. As a computer scientist, I've created advanced AI and machine learning models top of my countless hours of research that could give you the winning edge this season. So secure your guide by emailing me, messaging me on X, or just commenting down below. And the price you pay today is the price you lock in for the rest of your life. So as I increase the price, as this channel grows every single summer, I'm going to introduce new models and you're always going to pay what you pay today. And since this is the first summer of Yam Talks, I'm going to be giving out one guide every video for the rest of the summer. So we only got like 1 or 2 weeks left till fantasy football season starts. So if you want your guide, all you have to do is subscribe, like this video, and tell us your favorite running back target in the comments below. From a week from today, I'm going to choose a winner from your comments. So back to the video. So we wasted like 3 minutes just talking here, but we went quarterback. We got our tight end. So again, we're going to be gunning for upside here and just looking at who's available on the board. I don't mind reaching on players at this stage of the draft too, because I mean, sometimes ADP doesn't really reflect where players should be going. So let's take a guy like Tank Bigsby here. I mean, Tank Bigsby, we don't know if Etienne or Bigsby is going to be the RB1 in this new Liam Cohen offense, but I'm fine holding stock on Bigsby over Etienne. Bigsby did look like the better running back last year, and I'm banking on the upside. So he's not even one of me or one of starting running backs. And the good thing is about the players you pick at the later stage of your draft, these are super low investments. So if you do need to cut ties with them week 1, you're not really losing out much. Where you don't want to be busting on players is where you don't want to be picking the wrong guys is in rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like if you pick a bust there, you're kind of cooked. or you're not kind of cooked, but it's just going to hurt you way more with a higher investment than a guy you would take in the last 5 or 6 rounds. So looking at our roster construction now, we filled in every starting position. We have 4 running backs and we have 5 receivers. We have 4 running backs and 4 receivers. So that's okay. I mean, we're doing pretty good. And we have 5 picks left, so we're going to reserve 2 picks for a defense and a kicker at the end. So that means we have 3 picks left we can work with. I would ideally like to use at least 2 of those picks on a running back and or a receiver, and then 1 pick you can reserve for a backup tight end or a backup quarterback. But considering the tight end, we have Evan Ingram, who I think is going to be top 6, top 7 tight end in fantasy this year. I'm not really keen on taking a tight end here. I mean, we can always stream a guy later in the year, but we can take a backup quarterback depending on who's available. So, I mean, Jordan Love at this stage of drafts is a steal. Jordan Love was a top 5 quarterback in fantasy only 2 years ago, and his offense has improved from a personnel point of view, and he's fully healthy now. Jordan Love in the 11th round is ridiculous to me. And if you're going late quarterback strategy, Caleb Williams and Jordan Love are like phenomenal targets for you in this stage of drafts. All right, so now we're going to go with a guy who's been getting a lot of hype lately, and that's for good reason. And that's JCM. So JCM might be the Commanders' RB1 as a rookie starting the season now with the Brian Robinson rumors. And honestly, a lot of the Brian Robinson rumors have to do with the emergence of JCM. Eckler is old. He's going to get touches, but he's not going to be like a lead back for this Commanders team. That's going to be a very high scoring offense. So JCM might honestly, it depends who you're playing with in your league. So I did a redraft draft last night. He was a 7th round pick at the end of the 7th round in that draft. I thought that was pretty high, but I would not be surprised to see him go in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. But if you're playing a league where I guess guys don't really keep up with rookies or training camp hype and all that, JCM at this stage of the drafts is an absolute steal. He is the definition of high upside, and that's what we're gunning for here. So again, I'm going to give you guys another sleeper gem here. This is another player we're going to be banking on for that upside if he's still on the board. He should be. I would be surprised if the CPUs took him. Let's see. Yeah, all right, guys. Deontay Thornton. This is a Raiders rookie. So Jack Besh was taken before him in the 2nd round. Thornton was a 4th round pick out of Tennessee. But fellas, if you haven't kept up with the training camp news out of Vegas, this guy has been killing it. He's been gaining serious traction in Vegas as potentially their wide receiver too. He's got that big play upside like Jamo Williams has. And again, at this stage of drafts, you're banking on that type of upside. So I'm happy taking Deontay Thornton here. I've taken him in a bunch of best ball drafts. I've taken him in my redraft draft last night at this stage of the draft. And then we're going to finish the draft with kicker and defense. I mean, with kicker and defense, you want to be targeting kickers on high scoring offenses. And personally, if you are going to draft a kicker and a defense to end your drafts, go kicker first, get your defense second. So looking at who's on the board here, Younghoe Koo's been really solid throughout his career. He's been steady for fantasy, so we'll go Younghoe Koo. And then we're just going to finish up with whatever defense is available that has either a favorable schedule or is not like the Bengals defense or the Panthers defense. So we're going to wait to see who that is. And again, if you do want to end your drafts by not drafting a kicker and defense, maybe only drafting a kicker or only a defense, that's cool. There is going to be kickers and defenses available for you every week to stream. And week 1, you could honestly have a real shot at picking up a top 10 kicker, a top 10 defense in fantasy, because we don't know how the season's going to unfold, and that's the beauty of fantasy football. So looking at what we have here, I'm going to go Green Bay Packers. They have a pretty favorable schedule this year. And with that, that's our roster picking here at pick 11. Again, picks 9 through 12 this year are really solid picks if you do it right. And if you follow this blueprint, I have no doubt you are going to find success in fantasy this year. So thank you guys for tuning in. I got a couple more videos rolling out over the next week or two until the season kicks off. And thanks, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.